Let's talk about a feeling that I think every single professional knows all too well. You know the one. You're in a meeting. Maybe you're with a client. Maybe it's your own leadership team. You are explaining this idea that you really believe in, something you know deep down has real, tangible value. But as you're talking, you can just feel the energy in the room start to shift. You feel them pulling away just a little bit. It's not some loud, dramatic failure. It's more like a slow fade, a quiet frustration of doing everything you thought was right, but still somehow losing your audience along the way. And this feeling, it actually points to a much, much deeper problem that goes way beyond your pitch or your slide deck. It really connects to the very core of how we communicate our value in the professional world. This is something that even seasoned pros, people who've been in sales for decades, often don't figure out until very late in their careers. So what is really going on in those moments of disconnect? And I guess more importantly, what can we do about it?
And then, of course, there's this specific moment. You spend hours, heck, maybe even days, crafting what you think is the perfect proposal. You've covered every single detail. You've anticipated and answered every question you can possibly think of. You click that send button, and for a second, you feel that little flicker of hope, of optimism. And then, you get nothing. Just silence. A day goes by, then a week, and that silence just gets louder and louder, doesn't it? It's one of the most disheartening feelings in the business world for sure. It just makes you start to question everything. Did I come on too strong? Maybe I wasn't enthusiastic enough. Did they find a cheaper option somewhere else? Was my pricing just completely off the mark? We start desperately searching for all these external reasons, things we can fix in the document itself or in the numbers for the next time. We automatically assume the problem is with the what we sent.
But here is the truth, and this really changes everything once you grasp it. That feeling, that frustrating, deafening silence, it is almost never about your price or your product or even your pitch. The real issue is actually much closer to home. Sales psychology research consistently shows that the root cause of this problem is internal. You see, the problem isn't what you are doing. It's about who you think you are when you're doing it. Think about it. We see ourselves as an engineer, a consultant, a founder, a creator. We wear those professional titles like a badge of honor, and we should. But we actively, sometimes subconsciously, resist seeing ourselves as a salesperson. And that small gap in our professional identity, that little bit of resistance, that is what is costing us opportunity every single day.
So let's unpack this idea a little more deeply, shall we? Let's get to the real root cause of this professional sound of silence. Because once you can finally identify the real problem, you can finally start working on the right solution. And this is precisely where most professionals get stuck. They can spend years tweaking their proposals, they'll lower their prices, they'll polish their presentations until they shine. They do all of this work while completely ignoring the one thing that would actually make a difference. The truth is, you are always selling. Now, not in a pushy or a manipulative way, but in the most human way possible. A parent convincing a child to eat their vegetables. That's selling. A doctor helping a patient commit to a new treatment plan is selling. The artist convincing a gallery to show their work is absolutely selling. The nonprofit leader pitching a new community initiative to donors is selling. In every single one of these cases, they are selling ideas, they're selling trust, they are selling their vision for a better future.
This comparison right here, it reveals a powerful truth about where we focus our energy. Over on the left, you see the problems we think are holding us back. We tell ourselves stories like, oh, my pitch was just weak, or I guess my price was too high. These are actually kind of comfortable excuses because they're external. They're about the what. But now, look at the right side. The real problem is almost always internal. It's about the who. It's that deep, gut-level discomfort with the very idea of selling. It's that fundamental, very human fear of rejection that we all have. It isn't about the product not being a fit. It's about the story you tell yourself that says, I am not a salesperson. And let me tell you, that story is incredibly powerful. It dictates our actions, or more often than not, our inaction. Have you ever held back from sending that one last follow-up email because you were afraid of looking like a pest? Yep, that's the story at work right there.
This internal conflict, this story we tell ourselves, it leads to something much bigger. A hidden identity gap that quietly sabotages so many talented, hardworking professionals. This is not just some minor blind spot we're talking about here. It is a fundamental disconnect that has real, tangible costs. It's the gap between knowing you have value to offer and having the confidence and the skill to communicate that value effectively and consistently. And this is where the real shift begins. Just understanding this gap is the first and most critical step toward closing it. And it's a step most people in business never consciously take.
They feel the negative effects of it every single day, but they never diagnose the actual cause.
So let's actually give this thing a name. We can call it the identification gap. It's that disconnect between your official professional title, what you see on your business card or your LinkedIn profile, and the essential human skill of sales. It's kind of like trying to play tennis with a baseball bat. You might be a fantastic athlete, but you are using the wrong tool for the game simply because you don't see yourself as a tennis player. Because we resist that label of salesperson, we subconsciously avoid the very skills that create professional momentum. We don't really practice storytelling. We don't develop our ability to handle objections with grace and confidence. We don't build simple systems for following up. And this just creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. You believe you're not a salesperson, so you don't do the things that effective salespeople do, and as a result, you don't get the results that they get.
And this gap, it is not just some theoretical problem. It has real-world costs that literally show up on your bank statement and in your career path. It leads directly to underpricing your services because you feel deeply uncomfortable having a direct and confident conversation about money. It causes you to hesitate to follow up, letting a warm, interested lead slowly go cold, all because you are afraid of seeming desperate or pushy. It makes you wait for permission from a client or a prospect instead of confidently guiding them to the logical next step. And the sum of all of these small hesitations, accumulated over months and years, is career stagnation. You work hard, you deliver amazing quality, but your career just isn't moving forward. Why? Because you have disconnected yourself from the one skill that turns great work into great outcomes.
So, we've seen how this hidden identity gap, this resistance to seeing ourselves as communicators of value, can quietly hold us back. Now, the good news is, there's a simple way to close it. It does not require a personality transplant. You do not have to become some charismatic, backslapping extrovert. It simply requires a reframe, a shift in your perspective that is both incredibly powerful and, honestly, incredibly freeing. This is where we move from just understanding the problem to actively solving it. The solution begins not with a new tactic or a new script, but with a new thought, a new identity that you can choose to step into at any moment.
And this right here, this is the core of that reframe. Sales is not a job title. It's a fundamental human skill, just like communication or problem solving or empathy. For years, I absolutely hated the word selling. It felt sleazy to me, manipulative, just kind of icky. But when I started to see it as just another word for effective communication, for helping someone truly understand an idea, everything changed for me. When you begin to see it this way, you stop seeing it as some kind of performance you have to put on. You start seeing it as a natural extension of who you already are. It is simply about influence. It's about connection, and it's about creating value for other people.
Let's make this even more practical. Instead of thinking about selling a product or a service, think about what you are really doing in your most important professional conversations. You're selling an idea to your team. You are selling trust to a new client who's probably nervous about making a big investment. You are selling your vision for the future to a potential partner or investor. You are selling your credibility every single time you speak about your area of expertise. We even do this in our personal lives all the time. You're selling your partner on a vacation idea. You're selling your friends on trying that new restaurant downtown. When you frame it this way, you start to realize you're already doing this every single day. The only real question is, how intentionally and how skillfully are you doing it?
And this is the ultimate identity shift. The old identity, the one that causes all the discomfort and hesitation, is transactional. It says, I am trying to sell something to you. It automatically puts you on one side of the table and the other person on the other side. But the new identity is all about service. It says, I am trying to help someone. This completely reframes the entire interaction. You are no longer asking them to do something for you. You are offering to do something for them. We have covered a lot of ground so far, but the most important part is coming right now. If you leave without hearing this, watching this explainer was not worth it. Stay with me. What comes next can completely change the way you think about your professional career.
Okay, so how do we make this real? How do we turn this mindset shift into a set of practical, non-intimidating habits that you can actually start using today? Lasting change is not about learning 100 new closing techniques or memorizing these complex, wordy scripts. It is about building a few foundational habits that directly address that identity gap and start creating immediate momentum in your professional life. These small habits, they really are the small hinges that swing big doors.
Here are 3 to start with. First, consciously reframe selling as helping. Before any important conversation, just take a second and remind yourself, my goal here is to help the other person get to a better outcome. That's it. Second, master your problem story. Professionals who can clearly and concisely state the problem they solve win trust so much faster. You can use a simple template like this. I help a specific type of person solve a specific, painful problem by your unique solution so they can achieve a specific, desirable outcome. Practice saying that out loud until it feels natural. And third, develop a follow-up rhythm. Real-world sales data shows most deals actually close after the 5th contact, yet most professionals give up after just 1 or 2. A simple rhythm, like a check-in on day 3, day 7, and day 14, is not pushy. It is professional persistence.
Let's look at how this plays out in the real world with a woman named Maria. Maria was a brilliant freelance graphic designer. I mean, truly talented. But her business was completely stagnant. Her core identity was, I'm a designer, I'm not a salesperson. So her action was to send a beautiful proposal and then just wait, hoping and praying the work would speak for itself. The result, unfortunately, was a business that simply wasn't growing. Then she decided to make the shift. Her new identity became, I communicate the value of my design. This new identity led to new actions. Her new 3-step follow-up was incredibly simple. 3 days after sending the proposal, she'd send a short email. Hi, just confirming you received the design proposal. Is there anything I can clarify? A week later, another email with a link to a helpful article about design trends relevant to their specific industry. 2 weeks after that, a final, gentle check-in. It was not pushy at all. It was professional persistence. And the result? Within just 6 months, her proposal conversion rate tripled. She wasn't doing more design work. She was just communicating the value of her work differently.
Now, let's really reinforce this message by tackling some of the common myths that keep so many talented professionals stuck. These are the stories we tell ourselves to justify our avoidance of this essential skill. Busting these myths is so crucial because they often form this invisible barrier between our current results and our true potential. Seeing through these myths can give you a powerful new perspective. These beliefs feel so true, but they are holding you back.
This is probably the biggest myth of all, right? We have this deep-seated fear that if we follow up, we are going to annoy the other person. We imagine them on the other end rolling their eyes at our email. I will be totally honest. I used to be terrified of this. I would draft a follow-up email and just stare at the screen, absolutely convinced I was about to become a major annoyance in someone's day. We tell ourselves that if they were really interested, they would have already gotten back to us. So we do nothing. We just let the silence win.
But here is the reframed truth. Professional follow-up is not an annoyance, it is a service. Just think about it for a second. Your prospects and your clients are incredibly busy people. They are juggling dozens of competing priorities. A professional, well-timed follow-up that actually adds value is a gift. Instead of a generic, just checking in, what if you sent a note that said, Hi, I was thinking about our conversation on Project X, and I came across this article on Market Trend Y. I thought it might be useful for your team. You see that? You're not asking for anything, you're giving. Your follow-up reminds and helps a busy person move forward on something they probably already want to do.
Okay, here's another incredibly common myth. We have this mental image of a salesperson as someone who is naturally outgoing, super charismatic, and can just talk to anyone about anything. We see this archetype in movies and on TV, and if we're more introverted or thoughtful by nature, we tell ourselves, well, that's just not me, I can never be good at that. And this is where so many talented professionals make a huge mistake. They count themselves out before they even start, all based on a false idea of what it really takes to be effective.
The truth, and this is backed by extensive sales performance research, is that many of the highest performing salespeople are actually introverts. And why is that? Because they are often exceptional listeners. In today's world, genuine attention is far more valuable and far rarer than charisma. The ability to make someone feel deeply and truly heard builds trust faster than any flashy presentation ever could. Buyers consistently report that the #1 quality that makes them trust a partner is feeling genuinely understood. And that is a skill of listening, not talking. Charisma is not a prerequisite. Attention is.
So after busting these myths, we have to question ourselves with a direct and very honest question. What is the real long-term cost of continuing to avoid this essential skill? Let's make this personal for just a moment. Think about just one opportunity that you might have missed in the last year, all because you hesitated to sell or to follow up. Now, what could that one opportunity have been worth? Not just in money, but in career momentum and in confidence. What is the cost over 5 years or even 10?
The answer is one powerful word: stagnation. It's the professional equivalent of running on a treadmill. You are putting in the work, you are sweating, you are getting tired, but you are not actually going anywhere. It is that feeling of being busy but not productive, of being really good at your craft but not growing your impact. It's the consultant who never raises their rates, the founder whose brilliant product never finds its market, or the employee whose great ideas are never heard by leadership. It is the heavy price of staying in your comfort zone while your true potential remains untapped.
This quote just perfectly captures the core lesson here. It is a hard truth, but it is an essential one to accept. You can have the best product, the most valuable service, or the most brilliant idea in the entire world. But if you cannot communicate its value effectively, it simply does not matter. The world is too busy and it's too noisy to automatically reward quality. It rewards communicated quality. So the real question isn't whether or not you're in sales. The question is, are you going to be intentional about getting better at it?
As we wrap this up, for me, the small shift was just changing the language I used in my own head. I stopped thinking, I have to sell this, and I started thinking, I get to help with this. It sounds so small, but I promise you that one change made all the difference. So the question to leave with is this: what one small shift will you make today? Will you finally practice your problem story? Will you schedule that one follow-up you have been avoiding? Will you simply remind yourself before your next meeting, my job right now is to help? Your growth in sales is not a destination you arrive at one day. It is a direction you choose every single day. Small awareness, small shifts, small habits. They quietly add up to something much bigger than you realize right now. Before you go, if this gave you even one useful idea about your sales journey, share it with one person who needs to hear this right now.